Holmes here from THiNC, Taylor Holmes Incorporated. Totally excited to bring the power of the dog to you guys. A couple of thoughts, just ad-libbing, but just literally hit stop on this one. I really enjoyed it. Blew my mind. Lots of things going on here. Lots of crazy nuance. Lots of details, innuendo, thoughts, and that I really found compelling. I went back and found the original book. Can't remember Wilson, the original author of the book that it was based on. Didn't read the whole book. I just literally finished the movie, but I've been flipping through large swaths of it and getting through to the end and some of the details there. And I think the main theme in the book, comparatively to the movie, is the two brothers. But in the movie, we see that Pete and his relationship with Pete and Phil, and that duality, that relationship seems to stand out. Obviously stands out the most in the movie. But that's a really fascinating story. A lot of people are going to compare it to Brokeback Mountain, maybe. Yes, there is that there, but there's so much more going on in The Power of the Dog. Obviously, this is going to be a spoiler-infused conversation. If you haven't seen the movie yet, wait. It's not supposed to be out until it's Netflix beginning of December, I believe. So you may want to wait on this one, this video review. Come back to it later, unless you pick up the video from one of the streaming services or online, which has it out. The big ideas here in The Power of the Dog are the brothers, right? You've got Phil, who is the ranch hand, and he's full tilt hardcore Western. He is all about dude ranching, and he's all about cattle and horses and dirt and mud and some of the really just stereotypical cowboy mentality. You've got, and then his brother George. They live together as brothers in the same room their whole lives, but they couldn't be any more different. Phil is outspoken and gregarious. Not gregarious, that's not the right word. Outspoken is the right word, not gregarious. He's a pain in the ass. George, on the other hand, is quiet, introverted, thoughtful, and he's a bit of a dandy, right? Not a dandy, he dresses up on rides even, and running the cattle, and he looks really nicely dressed and smart as he rides, whereas Phil is just one big dirt pile. Jesse Plemons plays George. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Phil. Two great swings of the spectrum of characters here. Really love them. And then you got Peter Gordon, who is played by Cody Smith McPhee. Fantastic actor. Did a really good job with this one. He's been in a lot of big movies, like The Road. He was the boy in The Road, I believe. There were more, wasn't he in 1917? I can't remember. But anyway, I'm sure you guys will correct me. Three great actors. Obviously, Kirsten Dunst was fantastic as Pete's mom, Rose. And I think Thomasin McKenzie was in there too, but she was just a peripheral character. So you've got these really, great actors playing this gloriously shot film, really gorgeous film by Jane Campion. She's the one that brought us to Piano, mind-blowing job, mind job sort of a film from, was that the 90s, back in the 90s, I think. Anyway, she kind of drops this atom bomb on us, and the relationship between these three people, the two brothers and the son of the, so George marries Rose, Rose's son, Rose's husband committed suicide, and gets married to George, who's there. This family is really well off, and they are well-to-do, know pretty much everybody, governors in high society, and Rose is not happy being brought into this family and that she doesn't fit in well. She really likes George, but she doesn't fit in well with high society. She's basically a saloon manager, right? Like a hotel manager out west. And every time she needs to interact with high society, she goes into a bit of a downward spiral and starts drinking. But the main conversation I want to have is between Pete and Phil. And right from the outset, we know that Phil hates Pete. Why does Phil hate Pete? Well, we find out later that Phil is a bit of a, I don't know, he's a rough exterior, manly man, but we get the idea he might be gay. We don't know. We got this idea. He had this relationship with, what was his name? Billy Bronco. What was his name? Anyway, somebody in their family, and he had a special relationship with him, and we get led to believe that they might have had a relationship. But the homosexual or the gay kind of overtones of the story is probably going to be what all the media is going to talk about. But I don't see it as that. I see it as a revenge flick. Because when Phil initially meets Pete, he just nubs him into the ground, totally humiliates him, makes fun of him, and really has fun at Pete's expense. And so we watch as Pete is humiliated, and he's tears in his eyes, and the rest of the other ranchers make fun, laugh and whistle and make him feel stupid. One of the interesting things that I found out about in my quick reading about the author is that this is his life. He always felt humiliated and out of sorts and not welcome or at home on the ranch. And we see that, he had a really hard time living out in the West, and would go back and forth. He would go to Chicago, get married, and then come back out to the ranch in I don't know if it was Montana, but this is basically an autobiography, sort of. He did not feel comfortable in the West and in the wilds, and so you see this conflict in his own life, and he's writing about this character that has this sort of revenge fantasy. To finally get that revenge on all those guys that made him feel stupid. And so at the end, we see that Pete sort of has this encounter with Phil in the barn. Phil has promised Pete a rope. He's going to make him a rope, and he's going to teach him how to use it. He's going to go back to school. They sort of make this amends, and Pete makes an effort with Phil. Why does Pete make an effort with Phil? But ultimately we find out that Pete makes an effort with Phil. Why? So he can kill him. But it's such a subtle play, many movie viewers may not even have noticed that's what happened. When he's out on a ride, Phil teaches Pete how to ride. Pete goes off on a road by himself. He comes across a cow that has died of anthrax. Pete, being a med student, puts on latex gloves and removes some of the anthrax and, bottles it up and carries it correctly. And then if you watch closely at the end, he brings Pete some water, and he knows that Phil needs the water to make the rope and finish the rope. And he has this massive cut. Phil has this massive cut on his hand. So we know that Pete has put anthrax in the water. Like that's a fact. There's anthrax in the water. Phil puts his hands in the water. The anthrax goes into his bloodstream, kills him, right? In the next few days. The doctor said he convulsed something mean, and it was a terrible ending for him. To die of anthrax can't be good. So all that to say that what the author of the novel was basically doing was comparing and contrasting the modern and the old ways of life. 1925, the West, dirt roads, cattle drives, it's still very wild out in the West compared with the city. And he's got these two ideas clashing. And so the author of the novel is killing the old mindset of, rough and tumble, masculine men who are out to prove that they're, strong and tough. And you have this idea of the metropolis male who is becoming a doctor, wanting to learn, wanting to study. And it was a clash of ideas, a clash of ideals. And the author is killing the old way and bringing in the new, ushering in the new. And we see that in Pete using a very scientific method for murdering Phil. He's not going to be found out. No one's going to know. Very clever way of doing it. And he has gotten away with it. And as the movie ends, you see that he flips to, I can't remember which scripture it was, but we see that he is referencing the power of the dog and delivering God, oh Lord, deliver me from the power of the dog. And he's morally justifying his actions, at least to himself. No one else knows, but he's morally justifying his own actions of killing off this enemy that has belittled him and set upon him. And anyway, I thought the movie was gorgeously shot. I'm coming out right now and saying that Benedict Cumberbatch is going to win an Oscar for this one. Guaranteed. 100% guaranteed. Best actor. He's going to rock it. This is his movie. He's definitely going to get Best Actor for this role. Promise you. Promise you, promise you, promise you. Yeah, really good acting. Really great set piece. Glorious cinematography and shooting and landscape. I want to know where they shot. That thing is, the settings are glorious. And I actually think a lot of it was CG. It was so amazing. Anyway, great movie, fun ride. But it wasn't specifically about a Western. It was a clash of ideals, a clash of thought, a changing of the landscape, a changing of into modernity and learning and out with the old, in with the new. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun with this one. Thanks to Nancy for bringing it to my attention. Really, really enjoyed it. All right, take care.